Great. Welcome, everyone. My name is Caleb Monroe, and I'm the Executive Director for Youth Celebrate Diversity. And really excited to see you here for today's webinar. And I'm joined by two of our student co-chairs for the YCD Colorado Student Board this year. And I'd like to invite them to introduce themselves. Robel, do you want to go first?
I would love to. What's going on, everyone? My name is Robel. I am a senior at Devlin High School. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm lucky enough to be one of the co-chairs for YCD.
Great. And can you quickly
Hello.
share? Oh, sorry, Nirali. Can you quickly share, Robel, how many years you've been involved in YCD?
Yes, this is my fourth year. I started when I was a freshman.
Hi everyone, I'm Norali Narayan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a senior at Highlands Ranch High School, and I've been involved with Youth Celebrate Diversity since my sophomore year.
Awesome. So thank you, Robel and Nirali, and thanks everyone for being here to join the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing a PowerPoint that we're going to work through. So we are here to talk about how to start and improve a youth-led inclusion and justice club. And Robel and Nirali are going to walk us through this. And then once we get through the presentation, we'll have time for Q&A as well. So with that, take it away.
Perfect. Let's get going. So here's our agenda for how our meeting's going to go. We're going to first start with creating the new club, then transitioning over to getting your club going, next steps, and like Caleb said, we'll have a Q&A. And this will be posted on YouTube as well. So if you have any friends or school members who you would like to share this with, then this will be online as well.
All right, to start, we're going to talk about creating a new club. And how big should your club or group be? So we recommend aiming for about 8 to 10 members for a club. And don't be discouraged if you're not able to reach that number, right? It's always good to start low and work your way up. So to start off, try to get 2 or 3 people to help you in your goal of creating the club. It takes time for it to grow, like I said, so don't be discouraged if you're not able to gain members quickly. Oftentimes it can take a year for your club to gain awareness and people to want to join it. So just be patient and stick it through. Um, and if you're in a situation where a lot of people are interested, right? We recommend not exceeding 30 people for the club. Um, Once you reach that number, it's difficult to manage it. But we encourage you to reach out for help if you are having this problem. Have leaders in place and find an efficient system in order to manage a club of that size.
So next is, what should our club focus on? So it's important to set your goals for the club. What is the purpose? It might be important for you and your club members to, review on concepts such as, do you want to focus on bonding and coming together like with a single identity, such as BSA or Muslim Student Alliance, etc.? Or would you want to take a different route and bridge differences focused on one major form of oppression, so anti-racism club and gay-straight alliance? Or third, just fight oppression in all of its forms. And this includes the work of Youth Celebrate Diversity. So it encompasses inclusion clubs, social justice clubs, etc.
Okay, and now we're going to talk about trying to figure out a name for your club. We encourage you to get creative, right? The more creative a name is, the more eyes it'll attract and will become interested. Some ideas to help you get started: the Diversity Leaders Club, the Inclusion Task Force, Radical Inclusion Club, Social Justice Club, Spectrum Club, Students for Inclusion and Justice, Students Promoting Inclusion and Civic Engagement, also known as SPICE, Unity Club, and these are some of the ones we've heard before, and our very own name is on here as well, Youth Celebrate Diversity.
Okay, so how long should your meetings be? Often we've found that an hour usually goes by too fast. You know, people come in late to your meetings, or they have to leave early. And so you don't really get to important conversations until about like the 40-minute mark of your meetings. And so 90 minutes kind of is just the just right amount of time, because you can have time for bonding as well as fit in the actual important stuff for your meetings. And then 2 hours just becomes too long because you often lose focus from your members, or people get tired. So yeah, 2 hours is a little too much. So 90 minutes is kind of the sweet middle ground where you can fit enough material into it, but also get a good amount of productivity.
And when should our meetings take place? So first, we recommend trying to figure out which day of the week. By the time you reach Fridays or the weekends, after a long school week or a long work week, people tend to be a little taxed out. So we recommend trying to avoid Fridays and weekends. And again, it varies from area to area, from school to school, right? So when searching for a day, really depends on what your situation is. What time of the day? People tend to be very busy, right? So it's good to keep in mind um, what other clubs, activities, sports that people have going on, right? So you can try to accommodate for that, try to find a common ground where everyone can make the meeting. And again, um, just receive feedback from the group, right? Just try to figure out what's best for everyone as a whole. A survey is a great way to do this, right? You're able to see the schedule for everyone and gather opinions and perspectives, so you can make the best informed decision. Um, Also, when thinking about day of the week and time, consider transportation options, right? If you're able to provide transportation options, if students experience problems with getting to the meeting, um, and what time of the day, if transportation affects that as well.
And I want to interject here to ask Nurali and Robel for your thoughts. You know, some clubs have started meeting during lunch hours. Um, what are your thoughts on clubs meeting during lunch versus after school?
Yeah. So again, that question kind of goes back to the point where it depends on your situation and where you're at. Some schools, um, it's easy to facilitate that and have that happen. I know some of the bigger schools have multiple lunches, so that might be a little difficult. And also, lunches can be the one time of the day where students and people are able to relax and take a break from their school environment and just eat and enjoy themselves a little bit and relax. So it's important to consider your situation, maybe the people's workload, to see that if they need a break and take that lunch for their mental health and for their it's good to relax sometimes and take a break. Um, so if people aren't too stressed and it's easy to make it happen, then we would recommend doing it during lunch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the different lunches definitely affects this conversation, because then you only have 50% of people that might be able to make it. In addition, I think that if it's from a point of view of you want to let some steam off, you want to rant about certain issues, then perhaps those meetings once a week could work if it's like a social. However, if you want to get things done, like what is our next plan? What are we going to get done? Then that makes lunch a workload, and that adds another thing on people's plates. So I think that's an important conversation to navigate based on how your school functions. But more often, I don't think lunches could work for a meeting. Okay, next is who will be the leaders in our club. So, similar to the YCD approach, we have two co-chairs this year, and we often have found that that works best because two leaders can rely on one another. Um, it creates accountability, and you can split off the work. If one of them is busy, then the other can take a workload that month, and then you can switch off. This can be elected by the club members through a consensus or a vote. But terms we like to avoid is president, vice president, because that often creates like a hierarchy. Um, and we would rather have like subcommittee chairs to give other students some responsibility as well, so they feel like they're in control. Each group should come up with a leadership structure so it doesn't fall apart and it's not everyone is equal, because sometimes you will need a leader to guide you on what your next step is and how you can achieve that.
Next, we're going to talk about the role that a teacher or adult figure could play in your group. Um, YCD is very passionate about adult relationship with student leaders, and we provide training on this. Um, Educators and adults are a great way to help your club get jump started and have a reliable resource. But it's good to also keep in mind that they should be there as mentors and facilitators rather than leaders of the club, right? Um, we want these to be student-led clubs. They are the ones that are passionate about this and came together. So we encourage you to find an adult that is willing to accept a mentor position and not a leadership position where they might try to take too much control or be a dominant voice within the club. Um, and it's better to express this at the beginning when you first talk about meeting with the adult. Um, you don't want conflict to arise later on in the club's existence because expectations, roles, and responsibilities weren't communicated. So we recommend getting that out the way as soon as possible.
Right. Your teacher or your club sponsor should more serve as a support, whether you need them to store certain items or materials for a project, or you need them to help facilitate through admin and communicate what your needs are as a club to the admin of your school, or they need to reserve a space for an event that you're having. Those are some roles that your club sponsor can have rather than them taking control of the entire club, because it should be student led.
And Nurali and Robel, can you talk a little bit about your experiences working with adult mentors? What does like a meeting look like in that with that kind of relationship? Can you just like paint a picture of what that dynamic looks like for meetings?
Yeah. Um, so I can start, and Robel, you can help me elaborate. But for the most part, our sponsors and our coordinators stay in the room. However, they're mostly quiet for most of the duration of the meeting. Um, this serves to help facilitate our students to be more vocal about the issues going on in the club or decisions that we need to make, rather than us waiting on an adult to first talk and us making the decisions through that. At times, they will aid us if we need any help in terms of questions we have about our conference or so. However, they do not lead our meetings for us.
Definitely, yeah. Recently, for me at my school, for one of my clubs, our adult sponsors left, so we had to find new ones. And one of the biggest things we were considering when searching for new adult sponsors was whether or not we could trust them to not try and take too much control once they were in the club. Because again, we wanted to preserve the fact that it's a student-led club, and once we were able to find them, they were just there for logistic questions and kind of supervision, but again, just not there to lead the meeting.
Yeah.
Great. And I noticed we were joined by Dr. Kennett Richards, who's one of our adult organizers for YCD Colorado. Kennett, I don't know if you're in a place where you want to add anything to this conversation about the role for adult mentors?
I can't really think of a whole lot to add to that conversation. What I can say for the adults is that if you notice something, you could pull one of the leaders aside, kind of hash it out a little bit on the side away from the rest of the group, and then have the student leader, go back and try to address it with the broader group, or if there's something more individual, sort of coach the leaders of that group to go over and have conversations. But really your role is to stay in the background, do some coaching as needed, and then kind of withdraw.
And then Robella and Nirali, you know, once you were elected as co-chairs, you weren't just like thrown into the deep end and said like, okay, you're leaders, right? Can you talk about the preparation that you went through in order to become ready as co-chairs for the year?
So we had to go through a full day training in which our adult sponsors kind of told us everything that entailed throughout the year, situations that we might face throughout the year, like what happens if there's a disagreement between two members, how can we resolve that and still maintain peace within the group, unity within the group. Other things that they trained us on were how to lead group discussions, and we'll touch on this in a little bit about how to lead a consensus discussion, but all of these little aspects that really create our meetings, we had gone through in extreme detail. So Robella and I are extremely prepared for this year.
Most definitely, yeah. This training made it so that once we get to our regular meetings, the adults don't need to step in and provide support for every situation, because we are well prepared, and that's why we have that top bullet point. YCD provides training on this. It's important that the student leaders know how to react in different environments and different situations. That way, so they can just be prepared to make it a successful student-led club.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, you know, we have student leaders, but we need some kind of training for them, please don't hesitate to reach out to YCD. Our contact information's on our website. We'll talk about that some more later, but this is a space where YCD can provide training to the leaders of your club so that they can be prepared to effectively lead your meetings. So sorry, back to Robel and Nirali.
you're good, Caleb. Um, Sorry, I forgot our turns, Robella. Is this your slide?
I believe this is you.
Okay, this is me. Okay,
Yeah.
how will we make decisions? So, like I said, YCD uses consensus as our decision-making model. So this is more inclusive than a majority rules vote. And how a consensus works is you discuss the pros and cons of a decision. And you weigh the options, you maybe take a straw poll of how people are feeling. However, rather than doing a majority rules, we avoid doing that because often with a majority rules vote, we tend to take that back to where minority voices are kind of silenced, and majority rules is often like people with privilege who are often more heard. And so with the consensus, you may not always get your top choice as the decision that's approved, but it will be something that everyone relatively agrees on. And you discuss it, and if someone feels unsatisfied with a result or like a decision made, then they can, put their thumbs down, and we can ask them, why do you feel so strongly about not picking this option rather than another option? And we've seen that this is ideally the best way to maybe have a discussion, rather than a majority rules or like a vote or that kind of thing. Robel, did I miss anything?
No, you pretty much summed it up. I just want to emphasize the fact that a consensus discussion makes it so that no one is walking away unhappy with the decision made by the group. There's no underlying animosity. No one is displeasured. this makes it so that the bonding within the group and the relationships stay strong and positive, and preventing problems that may occur in the future.
Right. So everyone's voices are heard through a consensus discussion.
So I mentioned just now about problems that may occur, and if they do occur, which they will, conflict is inevitable. YCD is very passionate about conflict resolution and restorative justice. Restorative justice basically means that we talk about our problem. We don't throw it under the rug. We don't just brush it over, right? We acknowledge the problem and we tackle it head on. This is why training on how to resolve conflict is so important for club leaders, right? So the restorative justice discussions are made between the whatever the conflict and the whoever was in the conflict and with the leaders of the group. That way, we can figure out a solution, whether it's, and hopefully it's coming back to the meeting and coming back to the club with no leftover animosity and no leftover problems. That way, we're able to continue the work that we all came together in order to accomplish. And if you're interested in finding more, we invite you to training on how to build consensus at ycdiversity.org.
Okay, our next slide is, do we need school approval to start a club? So to my surprise, and I'm sure to many of yours, you don't actually need your school's approval. Of course, it's most convenient to get their approval. However, if you feel passionately about a club and your school is against it, you can still talk to the director of activities, or you can connect with your local nonprofits or community organizations in order to make your club happen. YCD is a sample club constitution. We aren't exactly through a school, but we are an organization like statewide. In fact, multiple statewide. We also have a similar organization in New Mexico and another state. And so you really don't need school approval to start a club. It can happen through just a few passionate voices and some talking with your director or your admin. And yeah, and if you have any issues with that, you can always find other organizations looking to support your club.
Yeah, I would also recommend trying to find a teacher if you're in a school environment, or an adult that is just as passionate as you are. That way, they can work with admin, right? A more respected voice. Oftentimes, admin doesn't take students seriously. So we always recommend trying to find an adult sponsor that can help you get a kickstarted.
Yeah.
And now we wanted to touch upon getting your club going and how to get it started. For recruitment, we encouraged you to try to find as diverse club membership as possible, right? The more diversity you have, the more voices you have, more perspectives you have, the more knowledgeable your club is, and the more you're able to accomplish. So what steps can you take to make students from all racial backgrounds want to join in? This kind of ties back earlier to the type of club you want to have. We encourage you to not try to stay a little broad so that multiple racial backgrounds can be interested and intrigued in joining the club, and making sure that all gender identities and types of students are represented and included, right? There's not a dominant voice from a group of people within the club. We also encourage you to include all grades, right? Because as a senior right now, my perspectives changed from year to year within my high school and how I felt about it. So don't undermine the underclassmen or the upperclassmen, right? We encourage you to find as broad of a group as possible. Also, the different cliques within the school, the different clubs, invite all of them again so you have as many perspectives as possible. And another important thing to keep in mind is your location accessible for students with disabilities, right? Just staying aware of your environment and the people that the people that are concerned with that environment, just making sure that everyone has equal opportunity and access.
Yeah, and the grades one is actually more crucial than people often think. I know a lot of seniors will start a club because they feel passionately about an issue, and it'll be a completely senior-led club. And then there's no legacy to continue it. So the whole idea of getting all people from all ages and grades is super, super important if you want to leave a longer impact and continue your club even when you are gone. This is bonding and check-ins. So please do not underestimate the importance of bonding. Your first meeting should relatively almost be devoted to bonding, whether that's icebreakers or games for like learning people's names and their stories. It can be really anything, but your first few meetings are super crucial in terms of bonding and check-ins because this is a group that you're going to stick with for the rest of the year. These are people that you're going to be revealing extremely heavy topics to. And so you want to be vulnerable enough with them to have those discussions. And in order to do that, you have to have icebreakers and bonding in the beginning. So, like I said, the first meeting is all bonding. Then the second meeting, you might do a third of your meeting is bonding, and then the rest of it, you get to real important stuff about how you can get your club going and whatnot. Then your third meeting, maybe only 10 or 20 minutes, and so on. I think bonding and check-ins is a relatively important part throughout the year, but it's especially crucial at the beginning.
If I could also touch upon how simple yet impactful the check-ins are, right? A simple question like "How was your week?" or "How's your day today?" Right? This seems like a really simple question, but again, it's great for a person's mental health and they're being able to talk about your situation. If you're comfortable about it, right? It helps you in the long run. So,
For sure.
keeping it simple can be just as impactful.
Yeah. These are some more icebreakers for youth-led student clubs, and you can find this on our website, YCD. What is our website? ycdiversity.org. There we go. And there's like a whole list of icebreakers that you can use. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect, Nirali. This guide is on the YCD website and it has 50 different icebreakers that you can do within your club. So if you're not sure which icebreakers to do, this is a great place to start. It's free to download. And you can always do other icebreakers you find online, but this is a PDF guide that we offer free of charge to anyone who wants to download it.
Mhm.
All right. Next, we're going to go over group norms. Group norms are basically the ground rules and the things that your club wants to follow. And this is something that the group comes up with collaboratively. That way, everyone is contributing to it. Everyone can agree upon it. And we encourage leaders of the clubs to have a few ready in advance just to get the ball rolling and everyone to know kind of what direction that you want to see the group norms go in. Try to have a list of 5 to 10, and then oftentimes you're able to combine or concise them down a little bit. Also, 5 to 10 is a perfect number, easy to remember. Everyone can keep them in mind. We also want the group norms to be ready and available at every meeting, right? So we recommend writing them down on a big poster board at the first meeting when you guys are brainstorming them. And that way you're able to bring it to every meeting and consistently remind the group members of what you all agreed upon and what you all came up with. And whenever some sort of conflict may arise or someone is violating the group norm, where the group leaders are able to point back to that poster board and the group norms that the group came up with and give them a friendly reminder and hold them accountable.
Yeah, and Robel, can you just give some examples of group norms just in case people are like not quite sure what you're talking about? Can you just rattle off a couple of options or examples that you've seen used before?
Yeah, for sure. Being respectful, making sure that trying to be open-minded and hearing out different perspectives, even if you may not agree with them, right? Um, it's not, we don't want to silence any voices, any perspectives, right? That's the whole point of this club is to bring different people together. Um, also, um, yeah, letting everyone speak, being respectful. Any others,
Yeah,
Nirali?
don't not interrupting and
Mhm.
being open to educating others and being educated yourself.
Mhm.
Um, I've heard like keeping your phones away like during important discussions, and so such important reminders are really good for the group.
Mhm.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, Robel and Nurali, for walking through that. So, in terms of next steps, we've walked through kind of the basics of how to start a club. If you wanted to have something written down that you can refer to, we have a PDF guide that covers a lot of the same information that's available for download on the YCD website, which is ycdiversity.org. It's free. All you have to do is put in your information and you get a download link. So if you would find that useful, want to recommend that you download a copy of that guide so that you can refer to it in addition to this video. Also, YCD is going to be offering this year a youth leadership boot camp. So I talked earlier about, or our student leaders talked about the training that they went through in order to be ready as leaders of the club. We're going to be offering that same training for student leaders from any school and any club around Colorado. And so if you are interested in having students attend that, um, please, reach out and get in touch with me. We'll have a sign up on our website fairly soon, and we'll announce that through our email list. At that boot camp, we'll go through, basic concepts around inclusion and social justice. We'll talk about icebreakers, the roles for adults in youth-led clubs, establishing group norms, managing discussions, making decisions through consensus, and managing conflict and disagreement. So a lot of those different topics that our student leaders walked through today, we're going to do that in a one-day training coming up in October. So all of that is available on our website, which is ycdiversity.org. And I think with that, we have time for Q&A. So are there questions from the audience? Feel free to put them into the chat or into the Q&A function, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. While we're waiting for that, I'm gonna start with a question for, I think, Nurali. I think you started a club at your high school that didn't exist before. Is that correct?
It was more continuing the club, but yeah, it didn't exist at our school before, so.
Um, can you talk about that experience? Like, how easy was it? How difficult was it to get that club going? What are some hurdles that you ran into and any kind
Mhm.
of other advice that comes to mind?
Yeah, so I remember the first year that we started the club, there were honestly maybe under like 7 members, and our school was pretty known to not be very involved. So it was pretty demotivating at first to not have very many members when I knew that so many people would be passionate about the issue if they simply knew about it or if they were to join the club, etc. However, as we continued to get our name heard out there through events or projects, um, I realized how much more momentum we got and some traction by creating an Instagram account, using all social media platforms to really advertise. Um, Also, I found it helpful that in addition to meetings, we also have some socials where we can just, go to like a cafe or even just the park and just talk about some of the issues that we're having, whether that's with the school or with the people at the school, because oftentimes the biggest issues with inclusion and social justice is at the root of our systems. And so it was really nice to get that off of our chest as well as kind of do our meetings alongside with it. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Robo, I don't know if you have any other kind of lessons learned or advice that you would give from clubs you've participated in.
For sure. So a few years back, I was able to join a social inclusion club at my school. And the issue with this club was that we would get to the meetings and there wasn't really any game plan. There wasn't really any goals of the group, right? We kind of, everyone just showed up without any really idea of what we were doing, right? So I encourage the group leaders, the inspiring group leaders here that, when you're starting a club, right? Just try to figure out what direction that you want to head and what goals that you want to work towards. Come to meetings with a few ideas already in place so that you can motivate your group to, keep brainstorming alongside with you. Because showing up to a meeting and not having an agenda or not knowing what you want to work towards, right? It demotivates people to show up again, which kind of how it was for me. So I just encourage everyone to be um, as prepared as you possibly can and just work towards your goals.
Yeah, that's great advice. Any other questions from our audience before we wrap up? I wanted to also check in with Jeanette. Did you have any other kind of advice or thoughts you wanted to share with folks that we haven't covered already?
Oh, I'm sorry. You've done such a nice job of covering everything that my brain is kind of going, "Nah, I have nothing else to add here." I think that all of the basics have been covered, and any other kind of questions that are still out there, folks can certainly go to the website and get lots of resources and lots of information. I think that's really helpful. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions on the chat or Q&A. So just want to thank everyone for your time today. Thank you to Robel and Nurali for walking us through this presentation and for your advice and wisdom. A reminder, visit the website ycdiversity.org for any of these resources or for contact information to reach out for more help. And we hope you'll get involved with our work soon. So good luck with starting your new club and have a good rest of your day. Thanks.